The fluorescent lights in the Dataflow Solutions boardroom felt like spotlights burning into my skin as I sat at the polished mahogany table, my hands folded neatly in my lap. 12 pairs of eyes watched my husband Marcus stride to the front of the room, his expensive Italian suit perfectly pressed, his smile radiating the kind of confidence that had fooled everyone for years. But not me. Not anymore. "Ladies and gentlemen," Marcus began, clicking his presentation remote with theatrical flair. "Today marks a new chapter for Dataflow Solutions. The Morrison Industries deal I've secured will bring us $42 million in revenue over the next 3 years." Murmurs of approval rippled around the table. Jennifer Walsh, our CEO, nodded approvingly from her seat at the head of the table. David Rodriguez, Marcus's best friend and fellow executive, gave him an encouraging thumbs up. Tom Bradley, the company founder, sat quietly in the corner, his weathered face unreadable. I knew what was coming next. Marcus had rehearsed this moment at home, practicing his cruel joke in our bathroom mirror while I pretended to sleep. My stomach churned as he reached into his briefcase with exaggerated slowness. "But before we celebrate this victory," Marcus continued, his voice dripping with false sincerity, "I have some personal business to address." The room fell silent. Marcus pulled out a manila envelope and walked directly toward me, his footsteps echoing against the marble floor. Every eye in the room followed his movement. I could feel the tension building like electricity before a storm. With a dramatic flourish, Marcus slid the envelope across the table until it stopped directly in front of me. The papers inside made a soft rustling sound that seemed deafening in the quiet room. "Sarah," he said, his voice loud enough for everyone to hear, "consider this your severance package." David snickered from across the table. 2 other executives joined in with nervous laughter. Marcus's grin widened as he basked in their approval, completely oblivious to the trap he had just walked into. I stared down at the divorce papers spilling from the envelope, my heart pounding so hard I was sure everyone could hear it. 8 years of marriage reduced to legal documents, 8 years of supporting his career, sacrificing my own dreams, enduring his lies and betrayals. "Don't look so shocked, sweetheart," Marcus continued, turning back to face the room. "We both know this marriage has been over for months. Now everyone else knows too." More uncomfortable chuckles echoed around the table. Jennifer Walsh shifted in her seat, clearly disturbed by the public humiliation. But Marcus was just getting started. "Now, where were we?" he said, clicking to the next slide in his presentation. "Ah, yes, the Morrison deal, breakdown." But something was wrong. Marcus's confident expression flickered for just a moment as he glanced at the screen behind him. The slide that should have shown revenue projections displayed something entirely different. Bank statements, financial records, email screenshots, document after document of evidence that would destroy everything Marcus had built. The room erupted in gasps and shocked whispers. Marcus spun around to face the screen, his face draining of all color as he saw his crimes displayed in high definition for everyone to see. "What the hell is this?" he stammered, frantically clicking his remote. But the slides kept advancing, each one more damning than the last. Embezzled funds, falsified reports, stolen credit for other employees' work. 3 months of careful documentation that Tom and I had gathered in secret. David's snickering stopped abruptly. The other executives leaned forward in their chairs, studying the evidence with growing horror. Jennifer Walsh's face hardened into a mask of fury as she realized the scope of Marcus's betrayal. Marcus turned to look at me, his eyes wide with panic and confusion. For the first time in years, he was speechless. The man who had humiliated me in front of his colleagues, who had cheated on me with his assistant, who had stolen from the company that trusted him, finally understood that his perfect world was crumbling. But this was only the beginning. What do you think Marcus will do when he realizes his wife has been planning this revenge for months? Drop a comment below and let me know if you think he deserves what's coming to him. 6 months earlier, the Dataflow Solutions annual gala sparkled with champagne glasses and forced smiles. I stood beside Marcus in my emerald green dress, the one he'd chosen because it made me look like a proper executive's wife. His hand rested possessively on my lower back as we mingled with the company's elite. "Sarah, you look absolutely radiant," gushed Patricia Morrison from Morrison Industries, the same company Marcus would later claim to have single-handedly secured. "Marcus is so lucky to have such a supportive wife." I smiled the practiced smile I'd perfected over 8 years of marriage. "Thank you, Patricia. I'm just proud of everything Marcus has accomplished." Marcus squeezed my waist, his grip just a little too tight. "Sarah gave up her marketing career to support mine," he announced to the small crowd gathered around us. "Not many women would make that sacrifice." The way he said it made my stomach twist, like I was some noble martyr instead of a woman who'd been slowly erased from her own life. I'd been the marketing director at a successful firm before Marcus convinced me that his career needed my full attention. "How romantic," Patricia sighed. "True partnership." If only she knew about the late nights Marcus spent working with his 24-year-old assistant, Rebecca, or the way he spoke to me when no one else was listening. "Marcus, congratulations on the Henderson account," said Robert Chen, one of the senior partners. "Brilliant strategy work." I watched Marcus's face light up with pride as he accepted praise for work that actually belonged to Janet Williams from the strategy department. I'd seen the original proposals in his briefcase at home, Janet's name carefully whited out and replaced with his own. "Just doing my job," Marcus replied with false modesty. Though I have to admit, it required some creative thinking. Creative thinking. That's what he called stealing other people's ideas. The evening continued with more congratulations, more praise for my devoted husband. I played my part perfectly, laughing at his jokes, agreeing with his opinions, never contradicting him in public. But inside, something was shifting. When we finally returned home to our pristine suburban house, Marcus immediately loosened his tie and grabbed a beer from the refrigerator. "Great night," he said, not looking at me. "The Morrison deal is practically in the bag." "Patricia seemed lovely," I offered, hanging up my coat. "She's useful," Marcus replied, scrolling through his phone. "Her husband controls half the tech contracts in the city." I watched him type rapidly, his fingers flying across the screen. At 11:30 at night, he was texting someone with urgent intensity. When I moved closer, he quickly turned the phone away. "Work emergency," he said without looking up. "You know how it is." But I'd seen enough to catch a glimpse of the contact name, Rebecca, with a heart emoji. "I'm going to bed," I announced, testing him. He grunted, still focused on his phone. "I'll be up in a few minutes." Those few minutes turned into 2 hours. I lay in our king-sized bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to Marcus's muffled laughter drifting up from the living room. He was video chatting with someone, his voice low and intimate in a way he hadn't spoken to me in years. The next morning, I found his laptop open on the kitchen counter. Marcus was in the shower, singing off-key like he always did when he was in a particularly good mood. Steam drifted from under the bathroom door as I glanced at the screen. Financial spreadsheets filled the monitor, but something looked wrong. The numbers didn't match the reports I'd seen him bring home from the office. Client payments were listed at different amounts, with unexplained transfers to accounts I didn't recognize. My marketing background had taught me to spot inconsistencies, and these numbers were full of them. Either Marcus was incredibly careless with his record-keeping, or something much more serious was happening. The shower turned off upstairs. I quickly closed the laptop and busied myself making coffee, my mind racing with questions I wasn't ready to ask out loud. Marcus appeared in the kitchen 15 minutes later, his hair still damp, wearing the charcoal suit that made him look like the successful executive everyone believed him to be. "Morning, beautiful," he said, kissing my cheek with the same casual affection he'd show a sister. But as he grabbed his briefcase and headed for the door, I noticed something that made my blood run cold. Sticking out from the side pocket was a document with Janet Williams' name on it, and Marcus's handwriting in the margins. The discovery happened on a Tuesday morning that started like any other. Marcus had left for his early client meeting, the same excuse he'd been using for weeks. I was cleaning his home office, something I'd done countless times before, when his laptop chimed with an incoming message. The screen was still open from the night before. Marcus had fallen asleep on the couch again, claiming he was too exhausted to come to bed. As I reached to close the laptop, a notification popped up that made my heart stop. "Can't wait to see you tonight, baby. Last night was incredible." R. My hands trembled as I stared at the message. Rebecca, his assistant. The young woman with the bright smile who always seemed to find excuses to work late with my husband. I knew I should close the laptop and pretend I'd never seen it. That's what the old Sarah would have done. The Sarah who'd spent 8 years making excuses for Marcus's behavior. But something inside me had shifted during those sleepless nights listening to his secret phone calls. I clicked on the message thread. What I found destroyed any remaining illusion about my marriage. Months of explicit messages. Photos I couldn't bear to look at for more than a second. Plans for weekend getaways that Marcus had told me were business trips. Rebecca calling him daddy, and Marcus responding with promises about leaving his boring wife once his promotion came through. My legs gave out. I sank into Marcus's leather desk chair, the same chair where he'd sat just hours earlier, probably texting her while I made his dinner. But the messages were just the beginning. As I scrolled through his recent files, trying to understand how long this had been going on, I stumbled across something even worse. Financial documents, bank statements for accounts I'd never heard of, client contracts with altered payment amounts, a spreadsheet labeled personal fund that showed systematic transfers from Data Flow Solutions accounts to Marcus's private banking. My marketing background kicked in, and I began analyzing the numbers with growing horror. Marcus wasn't just cheating on me, he was stealing from the company. Hundreds of thousands of dollars over the past 2 years, carefully skimmed from client payments and project budgets. I found invoices where Marcus had inflated costs and pocketed the difference. Expense reports for business trips that had actually been romantic getaways with Rebecca. Even worse, I discovered he'd been taking credit for other employees' work, submitting their proposals under his own name and collecting bonuses for their achievements. The Janet Williams document I'd glimpsed weeks earlier was just one of dozens. Marcus had built his entire reputation on stolen ideas and embezzled money. My phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. "Working late again tonight. Don't wait up." I stared at the message, knowing he was probably already with Rebecca, planning their next betrayal while I sat in our house surrounded by evidence of his crimes. But who could I tell? Marcus had carefully cultivated relationships with everyone at Data Flow Solutions. His charm offensive had worked on the entire executive team. If I accused him without concrete proof, he'd find a way to discredit me. He'd probably claim I was a jealous wife having a breakdown. Then I remembered Tom Bradley. Tom had been my mentor when I first started in marketing, before I met Marcus. He'd tried to convince me not to give up my career, warning me that depending entirely on someone else was dangerous. I'd dismissed his concerns as old-fashioned thinking, but now his words echoed in my mind. Tom was also one of Dataflow's founding members and still held significant influence on the board. More importantly, he was one of the few people who'd known me before I became Marcus's wife. I spent the rest of the day copying files to a secure drive, my hands shaking as I documented each piece of evidence: bank statements, altered contracts, stolen proposals, and screenshots of Marcus's messages with Rebecca. Everything that proved my husband was not just an adulterer, but a criminal. That evening, I called Tom from my car in the grocery store parking lot, using the excuse of shopping to explain why I wasn't home. "Tom, it's Sarah Chen. I need to meet with you privately. It's about Marcus, and it's urgent." There was a long pause before Tom responded, his voice careful and measured. "Sarah, I've been hoping you'd call. I think we need to talk." Tom Bradley's home office felt like a sanctuary compared to the suffocating atmosphere of my own house. Surrounded by decades of business awards and family photos, I sat across from the man who'd once been my mentor, watching his weathered face grow darker as he reviewed the evidence I'd brought. "This is worse than I suspected," Tom said quietly, setting down the financial documents. "Sarah, how long has this been going on?" "The affair? At least 6 months that I can prove. But the embezzlement..." I pulled up the spreadsheet on my laptop. It goes back almost 2 years, right after his last promotion. Tom leaned back in his leather chair, his gray eyes troubled. I've been watching Marcus for months. His sudden rise never sat right with me. Projects that should have taken his team weeks were being completed overnight. Deals that seasoned executives struggled with seemed to fall into his lap effortlessly. Because he was stealing other people's work, I said, my voice bitter. I found at least 12 instances where he submitted someone else's proposal under his own name. Janet Williams came to me 3 months ago, Tom revealed. She suspected someone was taking credit for her Henderson account strategy, but she couldn't prove it. I told her to document everything, but then she suddenly stopped pursuing it. My stomach dropped. Marcus got her transferred to the Portland office. He told me it was a promotion, but it was to silence her. Tom's jaw tightened. Sarah, what you've uncovered here isn't just theft. It's systematic fraud that could destroy Dataflow's reputation if it comes out the wrong way. Over the next 2 weeks, Tom and I developed a careful plan. I would continue gathering evidence from home while Tom investigated from within the company. We had to be absolutely certain of our facts before making any accusations. The hardest part was pretending everything was normal at home. Marcus had grown increasingly cruel, as if my silence gave him permission to show his true nature. He'd bring Rebecca to company events now, introducing her as his indispensable assistant while I stood beside him like a piece of furniture. You know, Sarah, he said one evening over dinner, you've really let yourself go lately. Maybe you should consider joining a gym. I looked down at my untouched plate, biting back the response that burned in my throat. Instead, I smiled weakly. You're probably right. Rebecca stays in such great shape, he continued, cutting his steak with deliberate precision. She runs 5 miles every morning, very disciplined. Each cruel comment was another nail in his coffin. I'd started recording our conversations on my phone, documenting his emotional abuse alongside his financial crimes. Meanwhile, Tom was making his own discoveries. He'd gained access to Marcus's office computer during a weekend maintenance check and found even more damning evidence. Marcus had been manipulating client billing, adding phantom expenses and routing the excess payments to his personal accounts. He's stolen over $300,000, Tom told me during one of our secret meetings at a coffee shop across town. And that's just what I can trace. The real number could be much higher. But Marcus wasn't just stealing money. Tom discovered he'd been selling confidential client information to competitors, using his access to Dataflow's systems to gather intelligence that he then sold for additional profit. He's been playing both sides, Tom explained, showing me encrypted emails on his tablet. Bidding against his own company on contracts, then using inside information to undercut our proposals. The evidence was overwhelming, but we needed the perfect moment to reveal it. Marcus was scheduled to present the Morrison Industries deal at the next board meeting, the same deal he'd been bragging about for weeks. He's planning something, I told Tom after another evening of Marcus's increasingly aggressive behavior. He keeps talking about big changes and how some people are going to be very surprised soon. Tom's expression grew grim. Jennifer mentioned he's requested a private meeting with her after the board presentation. Sarah, I think he's planning to make his move. That night, I found divorce papers hidden in Marcus's briefcase. Not drafts or notes from a lawyer, but finalized documents ready for filing. My hands shook as I photographed each page, understanding finally what Marcus's big surprise would be. He was planning to humiliate me publicly, probably at the board meeting, while simultaneously securing his biggest deal. In his mind, it would be his moment of ultimate triumph. He had no idea it would be his downfall. The announcement came on a Friday evening, delivered with Marcus's trademark arrogance as he loosened his tie and poured himself a scotch. I was folding laundry in the living room, playing the role of the dutiful wife one last time. I've made a decision about us, Sarah, he said, not bothering to look at me as he spoke. I'm filing for divorce. I kept my hands steady as I folded one of his dress shirts, the same shirt he'd worn to his secret lunch with Rebecca just 2 days earlier. I see. Don't act surprised, Marcus continued, swirling his drink. "We both know this marriage has been dead for years. You've become comfortable, complacent. I need someone who challenges me, who matches my ambition." Someone like Rebecca, he meant, someone young and impressed by his stolen success. "The papers will be filed Monday," he said, finally turning to face me. "I'm going to announce it at the board meeting on Tuesday, right after I present the Morrison deal." My blood ran cold. "At the board meeting? Marcus, that's very public." His smile was cruel and calculated. "I want everyone to see that I'm starting fresh. New deal, new life, new everything. It'll be quite the presentation." I forced myself to look hurt and confused, which wasn't difficult given the circumstances. "You're going to humiliate me in front of your colleagues?" "I'm going to be honest about our situation," he corrected. "Besides, it's not like you have any real connection to the company anymore. You gave up your career, remember? This is my world now." That weekend, while Marcus spent his time with Rebecca at what he told me was a client retreat, Tom and I finalized our plan. We had everything we needed: financial records, stolen proposals, evidence of the affair, and proof of his systematic fraud. "The presentation software is already loaded on the conference room computer," Tom explained as we sat in his study Sunday evening. "I've replaced his Morrison slides with our evidence files. The moment he clicks to the second slide, everything will be revealed." "What if he notices something's wrong beforehand?" I asked, my nerves finally getting the better of me. "He won't," Tom assured me. "Marcus is too arrogant to double-check his own work. He assumes everything will go exactly as he's planned." Monday morning arrived with Marcus in an unusually good mood. He hummed in the shower, spent extra time styling his hair, and chose his most expensive suit, the navy blue Armani that made him feel invincible. "Big day tomorrow," he said over breakfast, not bothering to hide his excitement. "The Morrison presentation is going to change everything." "I'm sure it will," I replied, and for once, I was telling the complete truth. That evening, Marcus brought the divorce papers home and left them conspicuously on the kitchen counter. He wanted me to see them, to understand that my fate was sealed. "I'll be serving these to you tomorrow," he announced, "in front of everyone. I think it's important for the board to see that I'm committed to making bold decisions in all areas of my life." I stared at the papers, my heart pounding. "Marcus, please, don't do this publicly. I'll sign whatever you want, but don't humiliate me like this." "Humiliation?" He laughed, the sound sharp and cold. "Sarah, this is liberation. For both of us. You'll finally be free to find someone more suitable to your level." The cruelty in his voice was breathtaking. This was the man I'd supported for 8 years, the man I'd sacrificed my career for, the man I'd loved despite his growing coldness. "Besides," he continued, "David and the others think it's brilliant. A power move that shows I'm not afraid to make tough decisions. They're looking forward to the show." Of course his friends were in on it. They'd probably helped him plan the whole humiliating spectacle. That night, I lay awake listening to Marcus make quiet phone calls to Rebecca, planning their celebration dinner for after the board meeting. He was so confident, so certain that tomorrow would mark his ultimate victory. "Everything's going to change tomorrow, baby," I heard him whisper. "After the presentation, after I deal with Sarah, we can finally be together openly." I closed my eyes and thought about Janet Williams, transferred to Portland to keep her quiet. About all the employees whose work Marcus had stolen. About the company funds he'd embezzled to pay for his affair. Tomorrow, everything would indeed change, just not the way Marcus expected. Tuesday morning arrived with the kind of crisp autumn air that made everything feel sharp and clear. I dressed carefully in my navy blue dress, professional but not attention-grabbing. Today, I needed to blend into the background until the perfect moment. Marcus was practically vibrating with excitement as he adjusted his tie in our bedroom mirror. He'd been awake since 5 a.m., reviewing his presentation notes and practicing his opening lines. "This is it, Sarah," he said, not looking at me as he spoke. Today changes everything. The Morrison deal will make me the youngest VP in Dataflow's history. I nodded silently, watching him slip the divorce papers into his briefcase alongside his presentation materials. He'd planned every detail of his public humiliation down to the timing. "You should feel honored," he continued, his reflections smirking back at him. "Not many wives get such a memorable divorce announcement." The drive to Dataflow Solutions felt surreal. Marcus hummed along to the radio while I sat in the passenger seat, my hands folded in my lap to hide their trembling. In a few hours, our 8-year marriage would be over, but not in the way he expected. The boardroom was already filling up when we arrived. Jennifer Walsh sat at the head of the polished table, reviewing quarterly reports. David Rodriguez waved enthusiastically at Marcus from across the room, his eyes gleaming with anticipation for the show they'd planned. Tom Bradley nodded politely at me from his corner seat, his expression carefully neutral. Only I could see the slight tension around his eyes that betrayed his nerves. "Ladies and gentlemen," Jennifer called the meeting to order at exactly 9 a.m. "We have an exciting presentation from Marcus Chen regarding the Morrison Industries partnership." Marcus stood up, his confidence radiating through the room like heat from a furnace. He'd worked for this moment his entire career, or at least, he thought he had. "Thank you, Jennifer," he began, clicking his presentation remote with a flourish. The first slide appeared on the massive screen behind him. "Morrison Industries Partnership, a game-changing opportunity." "Before we dive into the numbers," Marcus continued, his voice carrying the practiced cadence of a seasoned presenter, "I want to thank everyone for their support over the past year. This deal represents not just a financial victory, but a testament to Dataflow's commitment to innovation and excellence." Murmurs of approval rippled around the table. Marcus basked in the attention, his chest puffing with pride as he surveyed his audience. "The Morrison partnership will bring us $42 million in revenue over 3 years," he announced, gesturing toward the screen. "But more importantly, it establishes Dataflow as the premier technology solutions provider in the region." David Rodriguez started a small round of applause that spread around the table. Marcus's smile widened as he soaked up the praise. "Now, before we celebrate this professional milestone," Marcus said, his tone shifting to something more personal, "I have some important personal business to address." The room fell silent. I felt every eye turn toward me as Marcus reached into his briefcase with theatrical slowness. My heart hammered against my ribs, but I kept my expression neutral. "Change is never easy," Marcus continued, pulling out the manila envelope containing our divorce papers. "But sometimes, bold decisions in our personal lives mirror the bold decisions we make professionally." He walked toward me with deliberate steps, his expensive shoes clicking against the marble floor. The envelope felt heavy with symbolism as he placed it directly in front of me. "Sarah," he announced, his voice carrying across the silent room, "consider this your severance package." David's snicker broke the tension, followed by nervous laughter from 2 other executives. Marcus's grin widened as he fed off their approval, completely absorbed in his moment of triumph. "Don't look so shocked, sweetheart," he said, turning back to face the room with his arms spread wide. "We both know this marriage has been over for months. Now everyone else knows too." More uncomfortable chuckles echoed around the table. Jennifer Walsh shifted in her seat, clearly disturbed by the public spectacle, but Marcus was just getting started. "Now then," he said, clicking to advance to his next slide, "let's talk about those Morrison deal specifics." But as the screen changed behind him, Marcus's confident expression began to falter. Something was wrong. Very wrong. The screen behind Marcus erupted with evidence that made the entire boardroom gasp in unison. Bank statements showing systematic theft, email screenshots revealing his affair with Rebecca, stolen proposals with other employees' names whited out and replaced with his own. Marcus spun around to face the screen, his face draining of all color as he saw his crimes displayed in devastating detail. "What the hell is this?" he stammered, frantically clicking his remote. But the slides kept advancing automatically, each one more damning than the last. $347,000. Tom Bradley's voice cut through the shocked silence as he stood from his corner seat. That's how much you've stolen from this company over the past 2 years, Marcus. The room erupted in chaos. Board members leaned forward, studying the financial records with growing horror. David Rodriguez's smug expression melted into panic as he realized his friend's downfall would drag him down too. This is impossible, Marcus protested, his voice cracking. Someone's doctored these files. This is a setup. Is it? Jennifer Walsh's voice was ice cold as she stood up, her eyes fixed on the screen showing Marcus's explicit messages with Rebecca. Because these look very real to me. Another slide appeared. Security camera footage of Marcus entering the office at midnight, accessing files he had no authorization to touch. Then came the recorded phone calls where he sold confidential client information to competitors. You've been playing both sides, Tom continued, his voice steady and authoritative. Bidding against your own company, stealing from client accounts, taking credit for other employees' work. Janet Williams was right to be suspicious. Marcus's eyes darted around the room, searching for allies, but found only disgust and betrayal. Even David had scooted his chair away, desperate to distance himself from the unfolding disaster. Sarah, Marcus turned to me, his voice desperate. Tell them this is fake. Tell them you don't know anything about this. I stood up slowly, the divorce papers still scattered in front of me. For 8 years, I'd been the silent, supportive wife. But that woman was gone. I know everything, Marcus, I said, my voice carrying clearly through the silent room. About Rebecca, about the money you stole, about the employees whose work you claimed as your own, about the clients you betrayed. His mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. You did this? We did this, Tom corrected, moving to stand beside me. Sarah came to me 3 weeks ago with evidence of your crimes. We've been documenting everything since then. The final slide appeared on screen. A comprehensive timeline of Marcus's fraud, complete with dates, amounts, and victims. The Morrison deal itself was revealed as another theft. Marcus had stolen the entire proposal from a junior analyst named Kevin Park, who'd been working on it for months. Security is on their way up, Jennifer announced, her phone already in her hand. Marcus Chen, you're terminated immediately, and we'll be pressing full criminal charges. This is insane, Marcus shouted, his composure completely shattered. I built this deal. I brought in millions for this company. You built nothing, I said, my voice stronger now. You stole, you lied, and you betrayed everyone who trusted you, including me. The boardroom doors opened and 2 security guards entered, followed by Detective Morrison from the Financial Crimes Unit. Tom had coordinated everything perfectly. Marcus Chen? Detective Morrison approached with handcuffs ready. You're under arrest for embezzlement, fraud, and theft of intellectual property. As the handcuffs clicked around Marcus's wrists, he looked at me with pure hatred. You'll get nothing in the divorce, he snarled. I'll make sure you're left with nothing. I smiled for the first time in months. Actually, Marcus, since you'll be in prison for the next 5 to 10 years, I think I'll be just fine. The room watched in stunned silence as Marcus was led away, his expensive suit wrinkled, his perfect hair disheveled, his career destroyed in the span of 15 minutes. Jennifer Walsh turned to address the remaining board members. We'll need to conduct a full audit and reach out to all affected clients. This is going to be a difficult period for data flow. Actually, Tom interjected, I think we have someone who can help with that. He looked at me with a proud smile. Sarah has a background in marketing and crisis management. She might be exactly what we need right now. As the boardroom slowly emptied, I gathered up the divorce papers Marcus had thrown at me so cruelly just minutes before. Tomorrow, I'd file them myself. But tonight, for the first time in years, I was free. Justice had been served, and I was finally ready to reclaim my life.